Hey, happy Monday. Welcome to the Wise Guys Labor Day. We hope you're having a great holiday weekend. Wrapping it up in style with the Wise Guys live stream. Philippines right out of the gate. We love to see that. Allen, Texas. Let's see. We've got Vineyard here in Utah County, Farmington, Utah. And on it goes. Dave McCann, Blaine Fowler, great to see you. It's great to have the season here. I saw some leaves fall from a tree today. It's September.
Was it just because the wind blew? Because it was 90-something today.
Well, but it's the dead leaves fall off.
Oh, yeah. So
I'm just you know what? It is September. It's that time of year.
I have noticed that at night lately, it was really cooling off. We always take a lap around the neighborhood at night, and I have noticed that at night, it feels like fall. In the day, it still feels like summer. And I'm hoping for, here's what I want though. Is this just wishful thinking? Because we haven't had it the last couple years. I don't want it to go from this 90 to like cold and wet and 40. I want some 70s for a month or so.
Yeah.
Can we get that?
You know, the second half of the game was perfect.
Oh,
our post-game show.
When we got done, I went down and walked on the field and talked to Neil, the new groundskeeper, and I got to use the little testing thing where they test the tearaway strength of the grass, and they were telling me about how they measure the water content in their sensors. I'm like, wow, there's a ton of science to this. That new field is gorgeous. But I stood down there on the field, and I just looked around. The stadium was empty by now because we were done with the show. And it was a breathtaking night. It was gorgeous down there. And that stadium, there's really not a better setting in college football than that stadium. It is so nice.
It was great to see the 41 on the scoreboard. That helped everybody chill out a little bit. Las Vegas, San Antonio, Texas, Farmington, Utah, Henderson, Nevada. Good to have you on the Wise Guys tonight. Presented by Brady Plus and distributed by the Deseret News. This is the #1 global live stream BYU sports show in the whole world. Alaska is in the house. Billings, Montana. Good to see you guys with us as well. Our popular podcast will be out tomorrow, all leading up to kickoff against SMU on Friday night. Beaumont, Texas has jumped on. You know, it's a holiday. I think the whole world's going to be here tonight.
I hope they're all here, and we love our fan base and the people that come in on the chat. We love those people that download the podcast. We're so grateful for your support. Make sure that you subscribe to our free email at wiseguys.com. So when you go to the website, ysguys.com, make sure you subscribe to that email. Like Dave and I even subscribe to it.
Yeah,
and every week you'll get highlights from what we're doing. And
I love getting our highlights.
Yeah, it's awesome. We've been, and when you get on that site, make sure you scroll down and look at the guest list we have for the last 2.5 years. It has been phenomenal. The people that we've been able to bring on this show and the insights that we've gotten, some amazing stuff. And not just all football and basketball. There's, first of all, lots of other sports, but also other topics that I was scrolling through just the other day, and I'm going down, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot when we had our astronaut on here that flew,
DeLewis Porter.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh yeah, we've had some phenomenal musicians on this show, and then we were walking around the block the other night talking about Skinwalker Ranch and Brandon Fugel, and I'm just like, there's so many interesting things on there. There's something for everybody. Make sure you subscribe, but also you can help us out, help this show to continue to grow if you hit the subscribe button on your YouTube channel. So if you're watching on YouTube tonight, hit that subscribe button. That's also free.
We want to grow that number.
Yeah, all those things we're talking about are free, and it helps us grow, and it helps us stay around for a long, long time. And frankly, you know what? When we talk to guests, like Andy Reid, I was talking to him the week before he came on. He goes, do a lot of people listen to the podcast? Do you get a lot of impressions? I said, yeah, Andy, we're about 1 million impressions a month. And he's like, oh, wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So the guests that come on want to know that there's reach out there, that they're reaching Cougar Nation. And so we need you out there. Make sure you do that.
Big and getting bigger. Weston in from Nebraska tonight. And I saw Robert there from Ridgecrest, California. Good to have you here. Wise Guys thrilled to have Brady Plus as our title sponsor. Brady Plus provides cleaning, food service, and packaging equipment, dispensers, and service and repairs with over 150 distribution facilities across the country and over 6,000 employees. The president of Brady Plus, Travis Brady, our longtime friend, was on with us last month. We just love having them as part of our show. Tonight, we have a big announcement we're excited about. The Deseret News and the Wise Guys are partnering along with Deseret.com. So among the things you'll notice is a Wise Guys presence and access to Wise Guys content in the Deseret News and on its social media platforms, especially Deseret.com, that reaches the whole world, where you can see clips from this show in stories that we'll write, and going to get a lot of more eyeballs for sure. You'll also see Deseret News staff writers appearing on Wise Guys frequently, beat writers, talk about their perspective, Dick Harmon, Jay Drew, and many, many more. An opportunity to expand our worldwide growth of Wise Guys and provide access to better content, more content to Cougar Nation like never before. The Deseret News has never done a venture like this. They've been publishing since 1850. Wise Guys has been on the air for 2.5 years. It feels like it's time to bring the two together.
Yes.
And so from now on, Wise Guys is presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. Now, I'm a writer for the Deseret News, and the Deseret News, of course, is the hub for the written word as far as BYU sports content goes. And this is just going to be huge.
And I love this. And, you know, I've been reading the Deseret News since I moved to Utah back in 1981 and came here to play football, and, you know, would go and look for articles on the game and all those kinds of things, and for all of my news. So for us to be affiliated with the Deseret News is huge. And it gives us a long-term sustainable distribution model too, and a lot more eyeballs on what we're doing. So we're just thrilled to have them on board and to partner with Brady Plus. How fun is that to have that? And it'll help us grow more rapidly. And we want to get the word out. This has been a fun podcast with phenomenal guests, and we want more people to be able to see that. Deseret News is going to help us do that. We're grateful for them being on board.
We want our live stream to just hop every night that we're on the air from all over the world. See Drummond, Montana the Mackeys are with us tonight. And we want to get across the country, we want to span the globe again tonight, as we so often do. So this is going to help us do that. And we're going to help them. It's all about content. And this show creates content, and we're going to do that for the Deseret News. And they're going to help us get our content in a variety of different ways to everyone.
And I love that they're looking forward as well. And they're going, do you know what? We haven't had this type of platform affiliated with the Deseret News. How honored are we, Dave? We really are. We've talked about this. For them to go, we need to make this venture into that world, and we're going to start with Wise Guys. That's pretty cool for us. Yeah. And that is, we're honored to be the first to do that with the Deseret News. So.
Stephen with us from Brigham City, Utah, says, hey, really enjoyed the game. You talked so much about Captain Crunch. I had to try them. I even split the Captain Crunch with the berries, like Blaine said he does. Yummy.
That's what I'm talking about, Steve. That's awesome.
We've got a convert.
If you're wondering what he's talking about, we were saying when you do Captain Crunch with crunch berries, you eat the Captain Crunch, just the crunches, the traditional first. And you save the crunch berries, the round crunch berries, to the end, and they soak up and they leach out into the milk, and now it's like you have like a strawberry milkshake with candy.
It's delightful.
It's the dessert. So, Stephen, way to go! I'm glad you tried that. And hey, Brian Huff, thanks for chiming in. Heber Valley Camp. If you don't know, I don't know if we mentioned the BYU team went on a camp out. Talked to some players this week, and they said it was amazing how that helped bring the team together. They feel like this is one of the closest teams. This coaching staff feels like it's one of the closest football teams they've had in the last decade. And you can credit a little bit of that they went up to the Heber Valley camp for 2 nights. And they fished, and they hiked, and they hung out together, and there were no TVs, and they told them to leave their cell phones behind, and for them to just bond as a team. And they did that right at the end of camp for 2 nights and part of 3 days. And I had a bunch of the players over to the house for dinner a week ago Sunday that are from big cities like Atlanta and Dallas, and they hadn't been camping. Now, mind you, they were in cabins up there. Yeah. They absolutely loved it.
Nice.
They thought it was an amazing thing to do, and they were grateful for the opportunity and felt like they were closer than ever with their teamemates. So Brian Huff is chiming in from Heber Valley Camp.
Fantastic. Here's what we've got tonight on our blockbuster show here on Labor Day night. BYU routes Southern Illinois. We'll discuss what we liked and what we think needs work.
Yep, and we'll hear from Kalani Sitaki. Today's media's briefing. We've got that, and we're going to let you listen to that.
We're also going to hear a couple minutes from Jake Retzlaff.
That's right.
You did an interview with Jake for Game Day,
right?
Which we will have on Friday when we're on the air on BYU TV and ESPN Plus. But Jake also addressed the media today, so we're going to hear from him in just a minute.
I can give you guys a later.
Yeah.
I'll give you guys a little bit of a preview because when we sit down with guys, and Dave's done a bunch of these, and we all get a chance to sit down with these guys. There's conversation before the interview.
Yeah.
There's the interview. There's conversation after the interview. And then we take that interview and we fit it. Like, the interview's always going to be longer than what we edited it down to. So I'll give you a little preview of what's on that. We talked about a lot of fun stuff.
Good.
You and I have played golf with Jake a couple of times. Like, we love Jake Retzlaff.
Yeah. And you know what? We love Gary Bohannon,
we love
too.
Gary, too. There are great kids on this football team that we've gotten close to. Those two quarterbacks are phenomenal leaders. And I'll just give this one preview. I had him talk about the quarterback competition, his relationship with Gary, and about Gary as a person. Wow. It was impressive what he had to say about Gary and about the relationship they have. And kudos to those guys.
Yeah.
Their ability to have that type of a quarterback competition and not split the team, where the team was right behind both of them, takes an unbelievably professional effort by the two quarterbacks, and that part I'm certain will make the final cut for the interview on Friday.
Great.
So I'll just give you that little preview. It was really fun.
Former Cougar quarterback and former offensive coordinator at BYU, Brandon Doman, is going to join us in just a bit. What he thought of Jake Retzlaff and where the Cougars go from here. He's also going to announce his top 5 sports movies of all time.
There we go.
So Brandon Doman's coming up in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah, Taggart Barron, director of the BYU Alumni Association in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, is going to join us. He's going to discuss all the activities, the schedule, all around Friday's game. BYU SMU. SMU's in Highland Park, right? I think it is. Highland Park, just north of Dallas. Beautiful neighborhood. Beautiful, relatively new on-campus stadium. Should be a great environment, and it could be a BYU takeover. Could be a BYU takeover.
Making the cut, which Cougars are suiting up in the NFL this week on opening week. We'll have that as well. Stephen from Olympia, Washington. The O-line and the D-lines look good on Saturday. Go Cougs. This is where we want everybody on the live stream to let us know what you thought of opening night. Southern Illinois, BYU beats them 41-13. Most points since they beat Southern Utah last year. Jake Retzlaff, 348 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. L.J. Martin rushed for 13 times. I think that was 66 yards and a touchdown. I also caught a touchdown. Chase Roberts, over 100 yards receiving. And the BYU defense holding the Salukis to 231 total yards, 4 of 12 on third down.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the Salukis quarterback, this was a transfer. So they started the transfer from Murray State.
Yeah.
And when you watch him on film last year at Murray State, he didn't run around like that. They didn't use him in the run game. He scrambled, but when he would scramble, he would just buy some time, run parallel to the line of scrimmage, and throw it downfield. So BYU, they saw him on film, and that's all you can do. You can go, this is what his skill set is. He's really athletic. We got to keep him in the pocket. And but they probably didn't do a ton of preparation for a straight-out quarterback run game.
And remember, they didn't announce their quarterback either until game time.
And so you have a decision to make in game, right? Now you go, listen, so we didn't plan to have a spy for him. We didn't focus on this. So this is a surprise, right? So he's getting a couple of big chunks, but they're not going to be able to score. It's not sustainable for them to run that all the way down the field. Now, on the other hand, everything else they're trying to do, we're shutting down.
Yeah.
Zone's working great against their pass game. When they're playing man, they're locking people down. Their regular run game, their running backs couldn't get anything. And so I think Kalani and Jay, who was there, by the way, and consulting, I would say, from up in the booth, Gavin, Justin, Kelly, that whole group, they just said, you know what? We're not going to make an adjustment on this quarterback. We're going to be a little more aware of it, but we're going to stay with what we're doing and what we planned because it's so effective, and we feel like they're going to really struggle to score with this guy doing it that way, and we'll keep the score down and we'll keep the yardage down. And they did exactly that. That was a good decision. So people said, man, their quarterback ran around a little bit. Why was that? Well, there you go. That was the reason for that. And they said, we'll take that and we'll shut everything else down and we'll be successful. And they were.
Let's revisit your 3 keys to the game. So what we're going to do each week is Blaine will give 3 keys. We'll hold them accountable. And they'll revisit them. And then in a few minutes, after we hear from Kalani, we'll get 3 new keys for SMU.
Yep.
But your number one key last week was that BYU would be +1 in turnover margin.
Mm-hmm.
And
we said that I wanted them to average 5.5 yards per rush.
Whoa. Take credit. They were +1.
Yeah, they were +1. Everybody knows that.
I'm setting you up here.
Okay, yeah, they were +1.
Yeah, okay. You wanted 5.5 yards per rush.
They had a dropped interception by a linebacker that was right in his hands, too. They could have been +2.
Cost me the Y factor. I'm pretty sure.
That's right.
So you wanted 5.5 yards a carry. They averaged 3.8.
Yeah, but when we look at the running backs in that game, we were very pleased. Like every one of the running backs averaged 4.4 yards or more. But the kneel downs, they did 3 straight kneel downs at the end, lost 4 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards.
Yeah.
And that hurt the average, along with 1 sack. Jake Retzlaff had a sack that was like -10. So the negative yardage overcame the positive. I'm not making excuses, so I didn't hit that one. I wanted 5.5. They didn't get it. But let me just say this. I was pleased with the run game, and I thought it got better as the game went along, and that offensive line got better as the game went along.
Jonathan says he likes the O-line, thinks it's improved, but concerned that they did not get enough yards per carry. The quarterback threw for 348. They had over 500 yards of offense. But, we thought maybe they might run a little better.
Yeah, and I thought they'd be a little more physical, especially at the end of the game. Keep in mind that program is notorious for being really stingy against the run. And they put a lot of people on the line of scrimmage. And so there were some big plays in the pass game available out there. Some plays over the top and some big plays because they crowd the line of scrimmage. So you got to take what the defense gets.
Right.
I'm with you. I would like to have had more than that, right? So
here's one to wrap up your 3 keys. You declared you did not want any stupid errors by the quarterback, and you didn't get any.
Yeah.
So, it's 2 for 3.
Good decision making, nice throws. In the interview, I talked to Jake about that today. You'll see it on Friday, about his decision making and how comfortable he's feeling. Do you know how you and I were talking about in the second half while we were watching the game? I said, I feel like his footwork got better in the second half. I asked him about that. He agreed that he got more comfortable as the game went on. Yeah. And so more comfortable with his protection, more confident in his protection, more comfortable with where guys were. And he talked to me, and I'll let you guys hear specifically about it, but 2 throws he made where he did not see the receiver, but he was so confident in that receiver that they would be where they were supposed to be, and he was so confident in his read of the defense that he threw it to the spot where the receiver was supposed to be.
Nice. And
the receivers told him, we didn't see you. All of a sudden, we just saw the ball come out of a crowd. but we went to where we were supposed to be, and we made the catch. One of them was that Chase Roberts catch where he dove and caught the ball.
Yeah. Roberts was solid.
That's next level. That's comfortable to go, can't see him, but I trust he's going to run that dig at exactly the yard he's supposed to run it at, and it's going to time out on this step for me. I'm going to let it fly to the open area. He's going to go get it. I noticed that in the second half, especially that he seemed more confident. I love that.
Phil is on the live stream tonight from Cedar Park, Texas. He says, see you all at SMU and Baylor. That's right, plural. He's going to both games.
Beautiful.
And wear your blue shirt and have a good time. That's awesome. Let's hear from head coach Kalani Sitaki address the media. Just spent a couple of moments with his opening thoughts after beating Southern Illinois and looking straight ahead at SMU. Here is the coach from just a short time ago.
Back to Monday again. Good to see you guys. Excited about the weekend, about the season starting, and being 1-0, looking forward to the next game. After watching the film and kind of evaluating our performance, saw that there's a lot of things that we can improve on. I think I said that in the post game, but really feel that confirming that we can play better and play cleaner. But really proud of the way the guys played overall, and it's one of those difficult times where you look at the teams that played FCS opponents. Southern Illinois is a team that went to the playoffs, won their first game, went to the second round, and played against, I think, lost in overtime, close game to Idaho, who you guys saw what they did against Oregon. So these games, thought we had the right approach to take it serious. And like I said, I have a lot of appreciation for what they do at their level and how dangerous they could be, beating the last 2 FBS opponents in Northwestern and Northern Illinois. So. Glad the guys were excited about the game, but also took it as a challenge. But a lot of room to improve still. excited about the next step now and going on the road and playing against SMU. Looking at the first game against Southern Illinois, obviously we need to get some things better. And if I'm going to say on defense, what we can do is got to control the quarterback run game. We're going to see a lot of that, especially this week. And then offensively, finish drives, find ways to capitalize on some opportunities. Special teams, I felt like we had some really good returns that were set up, and we just need to catch the ball to get that going. But stuffed a fake punt, which was really good. And after missing the first field goal, I liked the fact that Will was able to come back and still have his mind right to make the next two. So we obviously there's room for improvement. We know how to fix them. Looking forward to getting started on that with today's practice. And now going against SMU, the head coach is a good friend of mine. Rhett Lashley's he's an amazing coach. He knows how to run an offense, call a game, and run a program. And so I think he's one of the best coaches in college football. And so he's done a great job with that program. And it's going to be tough for us to go in there and then play against them. But we have to get some things fixed in order for us to be at our best. So I know they have a really explosive team and our favorite in this game. So this is an opportunity for our guys to get in there and figure out ways to get better and improve and then take on a very impressive SMU team. So looking forward to the matchup. Have a lot of respect for their program and their coach and their staff, and they have really good athletes. I mean, I mentioned their quarterbacks. They have a few quarterbacks that can play, and then we've seen them on film, and they're very active, very athletic, and they can throw the ball too. So it's going to be difficult, but we're looking forward to the challenge. So what questions do you guys have for me?
That is head coach Kalani Sitaki for this afternoon. A couple of thoughts about last Saturday and this Friday. Let's go over a couple of things we liked. We'll have this little segment called What We Liked and What We Didn't Like. And again, we invite you all to the live stream. Give us your opinions on what you saw. And Blaine, one thing we loved is we saw no turnovers for BYU on the first game of the year.
Yeah, and if you think about turnovers were costly to BYU all year last year.
Yeah.
There were some games where you could go back and say, my goodness, if they just take care of the football, they win. Kansas, I feel like, is one of those games. They had costly turnovers against Oklahoma State and against Oklahoma. And it's just like, and last year it seemed like not only were they costly turnovers, they were fatal turnovers. You think about how many times BYU, especially at the beginning games, would turn the ball over, and we call them terminal turnovers. It's not just you're driving down and you're on their 25 and you fumble the ball and they recover it, and now your defense has to defend 80 yards or 75 yards. It's, let's throw a pick six. Or let's have a scoop and score. Like literally points, not plays later directly. Or turn the ball over deep in your own territory where they only have to, they're 15 yards from pay dirt. Those are terminal turnovers. They completely cost you and they can lose you a football game. And so that's something that needed to be cleaned up in the offseason in spring ball. It was a huge focus, I can tell you, of how they wanted the quarterbacks to handle the ball, how they wanted two hands on the ball, how they needed to look for certain things, how they need to secure it when they get hit, how they wanted running backs to carry the ball, and what they needed to look for, and when they can change hands. All of that was worked on in the offseason. You always do, but there was more of an emphasis. And, we got one game to look at. That's the data right now. They were phenomenal.
Council Bluffs, Iowa, we see on the live stream. Good to have you with us on the Wise Guys. What else we like? Well, there was only 3 penalties on BYU. Again, that's the first time out. Usually there's a bunch on teams going up against another team for the first time. 41 points scored. We like that. And how about the 3 deep balls? JoJo Phillips, Parker Kingston, and Keelan Marion all brought them in for big plays, and Retzlaff was right on the money.
Yeah, and Jake's, this might have not even been on the air, but in our conversation, he's like, yeah, because he and I were talking about his footwork in the first half versus the second half, and I thought that it was better. Jake has such a big arm that he can get away sometimes with just having his feet parallel and not really setting his feet and squaring up his hips, and he can still fling it out there 60 yards. He has a big arm. That's to your, that's a benefit, but it also can be to your detriment because you're not as accurate when you do it that way.
Yeah.
And he mentioned to me, he brought it up, he goes, he said there was a couple of balls early in the game where I had guys open on deep balls and I missed them. because I was too jacked up and my footwork wasn't good. He goes, as I settled in, we started to complete those balls. And so I think we're going to see a quarterback this week against better competition, but who in that second half really found himself and understands that he's got to keep his mechanics solid and the quarterbacks are built from the ground up. So I expect more of that. And part of that's because they ran the ball early in the game. And when you're running it and you're dedicated to the run and the team's trying to step up and defend the run, then there's some big plays over the top to be made.
Here's what we didn't like. Just one reception for Keanu Hill. They tried to get him the ball. They got to get him going. Southern Illinois' quarterback was a challenge to contain. 3 bobbled punt and kickoff returns took away opportunities for big plays, especially on the one kickoff where they had the 15-yard penalty. They're booting it at their 20-yard line, and Marion, just look at his chops to get going, forgot the ball. And next thing you know, he's tackled at the 12.
Yeah. Right before that, we all looked at each other up in our little crow's nest and said, man, that's a costly penalty and unsportsmanlike conduct after a touchdown.
Yeah.
Now you got to kick off, and this should be a huge return. And it wasn't a huge return because it got bobbled. So a wasted opportunity and too many bobbled punts that took away opportunities and cost BYU field position against a good team like SMU or even up in Wyoming. They have to do a better job in fielding punts and kickoffs and being able to do a good job on that, right?
Yeah. JL joining us on the live stream for the first time from Pleasant Hill, California. Good to have you with us. Tell your friends and bring them all. We'll take them all. Two things we didn't like, which we're going to focus on after further review tomorrow night on the BYU TV app. The big catch by Southern Illinois late in the first half should have been reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a catch, but it counted.
Yep.
Set up their touchdown. And then their fumble in the third quarter should not have been overturned. It was ruled a fumble. BYU recovered. Then they took a look at it and decided that you cannot have possession of the ball when it's in one hand, and then you switch it over to the other, and then you fumble it.
But not only that, he made a football move. He actually had the ball in his left hand. He made a move to make the defender miss, and then puts it in the right hand, and he fumbles it while he's passing it from one hand to the other. Is that not a fumble?
Yeah, it's a fumble.
You don't have possession, yet you had the wherewithal to make a move and to move it from one hand to the other. To me, that's clearly a fumble.
That's clearly a fumble.
Hey, and the other key, Earl Carr points out, which Earl, we should have put this. This is big time. Maybe this should be number one. Austin Colley was talking about it in the postgame, and he was knocking on wood the whole time. This is the healthiest BYU's been going into a first game in probably a decade. This is the healthiest they have come out of a game one in probably a decade. And we're just going to keep, these tables are wood. Yeah, we're going to keep knocking on wood. But Earl, that's a great point. They sustained no major injuries in that game, and they go into SMU completely healthy.
Before we get to our first guest, let's listen to Jake Retzlaff for a couple of minutes. He addressed the media today, and this will be a great segue to quarterback Brandon Doman. Here's what Jake said. We'll just listen to some of his Q&A with the media a short time ago.
Evaluate your performance, having a chance to look back at it on tape.
Pretty good. We executed pretty well. No turnovers is always a huge plus. That's a big emphasis always. And, there's a few throws that I definitely want back. A couple decisions I can make better, but that's for next week.
I also wanted to ask you, just in terms of your comfort level, do you feel like you're fully ingrained in this offense now and you're in full control?
Yeah, I feel that way 100%. I think this offseason has 100% solidified that.
Jake, you just touched on this, but week 1 to week 2 is supposed to be a jump. Everybody's supposed to get a little bit better. What needs to happen? What in your mind is that next step for your offense?
Just clean up the little things, the little mistakes that aren't amplified against a team like that, and that will be amplified against an ACC opponent. So that's just, I know I know every position has their little things that they need to improve on, and communication and stuff like that. In the game, everything's a little faster, and so getting used to that is definitely a big deal and something that I think will be better in week 2 for us.
I asked Kalani this, but I'm curious from your perspective, the technology changes. How big of a difference was it having the tablets, having the helmet communication? What was that like?
It's great. I love it. I think it makes things easier for me to hear it just in the headset right before the play. I can tell the O-line quicker. The O-line can get their calls off quicker. And play clock really was not much of a factor at all in the game on Saturday. And that's the benefit of it on my part. I think if a tight end's ever confused.
All right, so Jake Retzlaff talking about the coach can talk to him in their helmet.
That's right.
There's one defensive captain out there that gets the plays, and of course Jake Retzlaff, the quarterback. And I think we all saw BYU getting ready to get to work sooner because the play comes in. You don't have to interpret what the signal was. It's just, hey, we're doing this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yep. You get it in, and you can even tell them, hey, the last time we were in this formation, they didn't do this. So take a look at that seam first. So you can actually give a little advice that you can't do when you don't have a speaker in the quarterback's helmet.
So you played quarterback. Jake's playing quarterback, and now we're going to bring in another quarterback. Our pleasure to welcome back to the show a very familiar face who we have great respect for. He started quarterback at BYU. After some time in the NFL with the 49ers, he returned to Provo, coached the quarterbacks, later became the offensive coordinator. He's an expert, and we appreciate his insights. We welcome Brandon Doman back to the Wise Guys. Brandon, good to see you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me back.
Listen, the last time we were live in your car, you had your three boys in there.
That's right.
And you
They
were
were
coming
with
from
you.
golf.
They were with you.
What do we got going now? They're all on missions now, aren't they? Or scattered about?
Yeah, I actually am just about ready to head out when I'm done with you guys and go help the 8th grade. My son Mikey, my youngest boy, his 8th grade team. So I'm in the car. They just started practice. I told them that I'd be out there as soon as I was done.
Well, we appreciate
awesome.
you taking the time. It's, it's funny. A lot of the folks that work with us at BYU TV, our analysts that work with us, their kids are all that 12-year-old, 13-year-old. They're all coaching.
Yeah.
Austin Colley's coaching, and Dave Nixon's coaching, all up in that Ute conference.
John Beck's coaching. Dennis Pitta.
Yeah, they're all coaching their kids. Which is there anything more fun than spending time with your kids every day out on the practice field and getting to have that bond with them?
No, there isn't. It's this time of year is about as good as it gets. We went and played some golf this morning. That was fun, and then getting out on the football field with 13-year-old boys in their football uniforms practicing for games is about as good as it gets. It's really fun.
We had plenty of older boys on the field on Saturday night, BYU season opener beating Southern Illinois. Let's start our conversation with you. Just get your initial reaction to what you saw. What'd you like?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of really positive things that happened. I mean, most importantly, coming out with, I think, a solid victory and a very solid offensive showing in a lot of different ways. And so, I heard you guys saying, there's some positives with just no injury and getting things, being able to see all of the different things you've tried to accomplish in the off season. And then I think, you aired Retzlaff, talking. I think, naming a quarterback's probably the best thing that's come out of that, and having him play well was a good thing.
Yeah, what did you think about his performance? Brandon, he was 20 of 30, 348, 3 touchdowns. Maybe the most important thing of all, no interceptions. And I'm trying to remember, he did cough it up once and his offensive lineman caught it. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah, he got hit.
He got hit and the ball came
flying
out and the lineman caught it. So technically not a turnover, and he did a pretty good job when he was in the run game of securing the ball, but 20 of 30, 348, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. Those are the stats, but there's so much more to whether or not he played well. From your perspective, I know, because you've graded that position lots and lots over the years. So give us your thoughts, a little more in depth than just those numbers, I'm sure.
Well, it's just a hard thing. Coming in, having been through a competition the entire fall. When I was named the starter, and I had fall camp to really get ready, and I took the majority of the snaps with the first team. The continuity was created. He's been back and forth with Bohannon, trying to gain some continuity. So I think some of the things that I would nitpick on in that game, maybe the fact that he hasn't been the starter all year long and through spring and through summers had a little bit of impact. He missed some easy throws. There's some throws that I think you'd like to see him make, but at the same time, he made some unbelievably challenging throws. Some of his deep balls were so good. He made some really good quick games, some slant throws that were really, really nice. But against a defense like that I think is not as good as some of the defense he's going to see, I think there's 2 or 3 throws he would have liked to have had back, and I think he's going to need to make in the games coming up in order for him. There's a couple things mechanically I think that he needs to improve on. He can improve. He gets stuck on his back foot often. He's got that unorthodox throwing motion, which I don't think you're ever going to take away from him. It's kind of his thing. A lot of NFL guys are doing that, but you need to be really careful with that because it gets your footwork in bad position. And I think some of the throws he missed, just frankly, his feet were bad, and his feet were out of position. He was on his back foot. So if he can continue to improve on that and just solidify what he's doing foundationally with his feet, I think has a chance to be really good. But he has to fix the feet, because when the rush gets better and stronger, and his feet are happy like that, it's going to cause him some real challenge.
Interesting, Brandon. I was just telling him, maybe before you had a chance to get on, I talked to him for a long time today. I was with him for about 45 minutes, and he brought up that his feet were better in the second half than the first half. Yeah. He said, I was so jacked up in that first half. I was just like a little too amped up, and I missed some throws. And now that I watched him on film, I recognize that I did not have good footwork, and quarterbacks are built from the ground up. I've got to fix that. And then the other thing he said was, and I also had a couple of throws that we completed where I made the read, I knew where I was going, but I just waited another second to be sure, and then I threw it. And as I'm watching the film, I realized that this week against SMU, and then especially against teams like Kansas State and these teams, he said, I've got to be confident that first read is right, and I got to let it fly, and I got to throw it in there with confidence, because a hesitant throw will be a pick against better competition. So what's your thought on him? Like, he offered that up himself. How healthy is that? Is that a good thing? Can he fix those things?
I'm really happy to hear that. I mean, obviously, if that's not happening post game and film with Coach Roderick and that staff, you'd be concerned. Those are things that I saw watching in the stadium. Clearly, when you're watching it on film, you're going to see all the minute details. They know the play calls. They know the progressions. In order to be a really sound quarterback, it first requires timing. So if he understands that he was late on some of those throws and he can get the ball out when he needs to on time, then it's decision making. So it's timing, then decision making, then accuracy. Accuracy always comes last. And I think that if we can see an improvement in his footwork and the timing of what he's doing, I think he was making pretty good decisions. Honestly, he just was late a couple times, and I don't know if the concern of him just being stuck on his back feet, and I think that some of that's just his fundamentals of the ways the way he throws it. But that was concerning for me, and you absolutely can fix that and spend time working on that, and the fact that he's recognizing it as a positive thing.
A few weeks ago, a lot of us thought Gary Bohannon was going to be the starter. What did you see in Jake's demeanor early in that game and throughout the game that convinced you that, hey, he's the guy? He's the guy that can lead this group.
I'd like to answer that question next week, because I just don't think they were really pressured the way that he's going to be pressured.
Okay.
And there's some things, like I said, that I saw that were really good. But this team is going to face some serious adversity. And when they face that adversity, then the quarterback's going to rise to the occasion. I just don't know that I saw enough in that game to know if the adversity, is something that he's going to rise to the occasion to. They've had enough. Those coaches have had enough practice time with those two quarterbacks to make the decision that they've made. And I'm very confident in those coaches that they're making the best decision for the team. And what does that look like for Bohannon? Hopefully he's hungrier and hungrier and hungrier to get an opportunity to play. And in the event that he goes out there, hopefully he can bring some juice with him when he comes in. They're super fortunate to have them both.
Yeah, Brandon, the feedback I got, and I'm interested in your take on this feedback, was this was one that was so close in terms of who's making plays. Like, they were both making about the same amount of plays as they were keeping really detailed stats. But at the end of camp, like I'd say the last 7 or 8, well, I'm going to say like the last 7 days leading into game week. So the last 7 days of camp, there was a big separation in taking care of the ball. So Jake did a much better job of not turning it over, ball security. And so they went with, okay, if these guys are this close and one guy's taking care of the ball more than the other, then we got to go with that right now. Your thought on that as a divider?
I think it's important. Turnovers are an absolute team killer and a game killer. But in all the quarterback situations I've ever been in, or that either as a player, as a coach, gosh, even with 8th graders out here, when there's a quarterback controversy, my experience has been that often the team picks the guy that they trust the most, and they begin kind of subconsciously, emotionally rallying around that guy. And when they start rallying around that guy, then it starts becoming easier to make a decision. I'm concerned sometimes when that doesn't seem to be clear, that the team isn't rallying around a particular guy and the coaches can't see the emotion of that. And I've been in a position as a coach before where we just couldn't quite figure that out, and it took us a game or 2 or 3 before the team rallied. And in this particular case, maybe the team was already rallying around Jake and what he was doing. So it's gonna, like I said, when it gets really hard in the next week or 2 or 3, it's going to be interesting to see how well he plays, and getting a couple more games under his belt. It'll be fun to see. I think it's a really intriguing opportunity for him right now and BYU's offense.
Former BYU quarterback Brandon Doman is on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus and distributed by the Deseret News. Jake's 4 previous starts last year: West Virginia, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. Went 0-4, trying to figure it out. So after this offseason and everything, how important was it to have an FCS opponent where there's a little more room for error to open his junior season, where maybe he can take a breath and play relaxed and free for the first time?
Oh, I think that was so good for this team, the entire team. They needed an opportunity to just settle in and sink their teeth into this new, this new quarterback that's now starting for them, and for there's just so many things they were trying to establish: a run game, create a little bit more of an identity up front with the offensive line. And I think that the things that they were trying to accomplish, they were able to accomplish. They had 15 third down situations, which is so helpful going into a season. They were able to take some, 4th down conversion. I think they were like 3 or 4 on 4th down conversions. That's so nice to get an opportunity where you're not, freaking out as a coach about going for it on 4th down. Several red zone opportunities. They had the opportunity to let their kicker take a few whacks at it. That was really a positive thing. So there's a lot of things that they needed to work on, and I think they were able to see most of it. Let
me follow up on that with, in 2001, you're the starter, as you mentioned a moment ago. You are through off-season and fall, and you get Tulane out of the gate, not a world beater, but a challenge. You put 70 points on the board. How valuable was that game to you? You went on to win the first 12 of that season, but just how valuable was it to your confidence just to be able to go out there and run the offense and have it succeed?
Well, there was so much question marks. There's so many question marks around our team, and I think we took that personal. We had a really solid senior class that year, and I think through the off season, we had something to prove. And we didn't want to wait. We didn't want to wait 2 or 3 games. We wanted to prove it immediately. And we had a chip on our shoulder. And so that part of just being able to come out and play with a chip on our shoulder and play the way that we knew we were capable of playing, I think catapulted us into a ton of confidence going into the next series of games. And, let me just give you some contrast. University of Utah coming into this game, I mean, those guys, they were so dominant and a little different than BYU. BYU was very good, but not quite as dominant. And what kind of confidence are they creating? And I remember us coming in 01, we we just had kind of a nasty mentality and this chip on our shoulder. And I'm not saying I didn't see that. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that out of this team on Saturday, honestly, if I'm being as honest as I can. I didn't see that confidence, swagger, chip, but maybe this team's got to earn it. Maybe they just don't have enough of those leaders in that locker room yet that will emerge in the next couple, 2-3 weeks.
Brandon, it was interesting. In that first half, I'm watching the offense, and they were effective. They were moving the ball. They were scoring. But I felt like it was, I don't know if methodical is the right word, but like very methodical. Like it didn't feel like it had a pace to me. I felt like in the second half they had the foot on the gas a little bit more. Like they were a little more open and a little more confident in the second half. In my mind, I thought maybe they ought to come out and run hurry up for a drive or just do something to change the pace of what just seemed like it was plodding in the first half. Now, it's hard to criticize it when they were effective, and when you look at the numbers, they were good. Did you get that sense at all? And what about maybe a little change up where you run a little hurry up or quick for a series or something to change it up and get a little pep in that offense?
Well, there was a couple times where we had a turnover on downs in their territory, a turnover, and I just thought, gosh, in this situation, launch it, take a shot to the end zone, and not that. Again, I'm not trying to be critical. I just think that, again, you're developing this mentality and this swagger and this killer instinct. And I think you're right. There was a couple of moments where I thought, just go after the juggler right now and see if you can't develop a little bit of some early swagger. And there was some methodical play, but maybe that's the mindset. Maybe that's the game plan coming in, is that, we can't turn it over. We know Kalani's, comes from that kind of a mindset, and with his background with Kyle. And so I think there is a mindset of converting first downs, and they got into a ton of third downs. And so I think they accomplished what the design was created for. And we got to trust these coaches that they know their design and what they're trying to accomplish. But that would have been the only other couple things I'd love to have seen in that game, was just a couple moments when they said, okay, we're gonna really go after the juggler in this moment. And but that's pretty small.
Yeah.
Small.
Yeah. Brandon and I think alike on this, because people say, man, we had them on their heels all game. I'm like, well, good. When we had them on their heels, let's put them on their back.
Yeah.
I want them off their heels and on their back. If I got them on their heels, then they're vulnerable. Let's go after them. And I know Brandon is the same way. I have one question from the chat, which is a really good question. And I have an opinion on it, but I want to hear yours first, Brandon. Somebody said, when Gary finally came into the game, what did you think about, and they're asking us this, so I'm going to ask you it first, of them just running the ball and then having them kneel it out 3 times?
It's hard. I mean, it would have been nice to have given him some opportunity, but Gary's played a lot of football. I don't think he needs a ton of whacks at it to gain confidence. So I think they were trying to get out of that game and move on. And I'm comfortable with that. If this was a guy that didn't have very many reps in football, then maybe give him some shots out of it. He didn't need it.
Couple more questions for former 49ers quarterback and former BYU offensive coordinator Brandon Doman on the Wise Guys. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. We know you have a practice to get over to, so let's hit you up with a couple, and then you're going to reveal your 5 greatest sports movies of all time. And I know Hollywood's standing by to hear your list, but Retzlaff's hitting the road for SMU on Friday night. 2 road starts under his belt. Right, Oklahoma State and West Virginia. What do you expect to see from him in this new setting on Friday?
When I look at him, he appears to be calm and collective. He seems to have confidence. There were some times out there where I saw him, very alert and aware of his teammates and his surrounding with his offensive line. And there's some things that I really like, too, about this guy that I think the team will respond well to. And so being on the road in this, early on, I think is going to be a helpful thing. I really do. I think they're going to have to develop some kind of a road mentality, and against some opponents that maybe aren't going to be quite like some of the guys they're going to have to play later in the season. If they can develop some, a road mentality right now and get some wins, a couple wins here would be such an awesome foundation to be built as they prepare for their. They have some really hard road games, so this would be nice to learn how to do that right now.
We talked a lot about the offense, Brandon. Did you see enough of this BYU defense to believe they can get after SMU and force some turnovers, maybe to give the offense some short fields? Like, what was your overall impression of the D, and what do you expect out of them at SMU?
Well, I think that their back end's getting more and more talented. I know that for Jay Hill, he really will. I think when he's going to be at his very, very best is when he's got some good talent on the back end, and they're recruiting to that. I think they'll continue to get better and better on the back end. And when I say back end, I'm talking about corners and safety, and then their nickel packages. They played a lot of nickel package, meaning a fifth DB on the field, and then play pressure. And there's a lot of times where they were trying to play man to man, and then trigger out of that into zone. And if they can do that, BYU's not been able to do that in years past. So I don't know that they're quite ready to do it either. But I love the scheme. I love the mindset. And they do change it up well enough. I think our edge rushers were better. And I think we just were a little bit quicker off the ball, and we were closing the pass rush edge a little bit tighter. I think that'll really help this year. So from where we were last year to this year, I think there's been a good improvement.
5 questions now, presented by Strategy Square, delivering connection, clarity, and confidence in business and marketing strategies. Owned and operated by a BYU alum who's helping wise guys conquer the world. Tonight, 5 questions focuses on Brandon Doman's 5 greatest sports movies of all time. Now, I gave you a heads up. Think about it over the weekend, and you said, I'll be ready to go. And so it's showtime.
You start with 5 because we don't want to reveal 1 until the very end.
You got my brain all stumped right now because I hate to admit it that I forgot to do that, but let me just work my way. Let me work my way down.
You can give us 5, and then if we have to shuffle them around, if you change your mind and go, you know what, maybe that should be 2. We're okay with that, but we need 5.
Okay. I'm gonna start with kind of down the list a little bit with Rudy.
Rudy, okay.
Yeah, I love Rudy.
And oh my gosh, I just brain cramped one of my. Okay, no, and then I'll go Field of Dreams.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's underrated. Yeah.
And then I'll go with Remember the Titans.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot one. I'm already to my number 1. Somewhere I skipped my.
I know you wanted to put Hoosiers in there.
Yeah, isn't Hoosiers in there for you?
Hoosiers is my number 1.
Oh, Hoosiers is 1.
That's a classic.
It's
so let's see. What about
the Titans
Rocky?
Is 2 and Field of Dreams is 3.
Yeah, Rocky. My bad. That's the one I was thinking. I was going to put Rocky 2 and Hoosiers 1.
Yeah.
So the other night I was just flicking through, and and nobody was around, and I was bored, and it was late at night, and I wasn't sleepy yet, and Rocky Balboa, the latest one where he comes back and
we're kind of the bookend thing. Yeah.
I watched the whole thing until like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Rocky gets me every time, you guys, and I don't care like Rocky 1, 2, like it doesn't matter. I'm clicking through. I got to stop and watch it.
The music's awesome, but Brandon, did you notice through the whole Rocky series that as Rocky got older, the fight scenes got more realistic because they knew how to choreograph boxing better than the 70s?
Yep, it got better for sure.
Well,
I'm the same way as Blaine. I can't turn on Rocky and not finish it.
Well, and then the other thing is I'm in awe every time. So Rocky's older than me, by the way, and Sylvester Stallone is, and then that Rocky Balboa, I don't know, he's 60-something.
But he still can.
And I was like, what in the world? Like, who's training this guy, and what does he eat to look like that? Because he looked amazing in that one. I was feeling like a fat boy after that. So.
Hey, it's a holiday night. I know you haven't run off to practice. We sure appreciate you giving us some time because we value your opinion. And 1 game into a season after a 5-7 season and 5 straight losses, there's a lot going on with Cougar Nation. And so we like to turn to you to get some clarity and get your ideas. So, Brandon, thank you.
You bet. Thank you. It was so fun to see that stadium just packed with BYU fans and
your favorite color, royal.
And guess who leads the Big 12 in attendance after 1 week?
I know.
Our Cougs, right? Isn't that awesome?
I know. It was fun, and I think Cougar Nation's ready for an exciting season, and we're all extremely hopeful. And I am likewise the same. I'm just saying. So I'm hoping like crazy. So go Cougs.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thanks, Brandon. Have fun at practice.
All right, guys, take care.
So Rudy, Field of Dreams, Remember the Titans, Rocky, and the number one Hoosiers. 5 questions presented by Strategy Square. We got a few minutes before our next guest will join us live from Dallas. So let's think a little bit more about what Brandon was talking about as we look at SMU and what they bring to the table. They're 2-0. They beat Nevada 29-24. Had to come from behind to do that. And then the other night they beat Houston Christian 59-7. Which would be the equivalent of BYU playing Timpview. And so that was that. Las Vegas has them a 10-point favorite on their home field.
Yeah, but Las Vegas also had BYU only a 14-point favorite on their home field.
BYU beat Vegas and the Salukis.
By a mile.
And they're playing at night. BYU's 21-3 in their last 24 night games. Greg Wrubell tweeted that out today.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a nice night.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to you a little while ago before we came on the show. I don't know what to make of these guys.
Yeah.
Because they've been really good against opponents that are lesser opponents. They were great in their league last year. It wasn't a Power 5 league, right? They played, when they played Power 5 teams, they didn't win, including in their bowl game when they were going into that bowl game with 11 wins, the most they'd had in years, and they played Boston College, who's good, but they're weren't a world beater in the ACC, and they got beat, and it's just like, so now they go out and they play Nevada. Nevada was picked, and it's on the road. It's not an easy place to play. We've done games from there.
Yes, we have.
Nevada's picked 12th out of 12 teams in the Mountain West Conference.
That's not good.
And they struggled to run the football with the running backs. They did throw the ball. Nevada was able to run the ball on them. And here's the thing I'm saying. Last year, this was a very good defensive team, very opportunistic. They forced turnovers. They piled up sacks. But when they played Power 5 teams, now we call them Power 4 because there's no Pac-12.
Yeah.
Power 4 teams just ran the ball right down their throats. Like they got out physicaled up front by Power 4 teams. Now, BYU was not a world beater running the football last year either, but they are big and physical up front. And, you would expect that they're going to test SMU up front running the football. So, and BYU's, they're in their second year, so they're new to this as well, but they look like a Power 4 football team now, size-wise and physically. So I'll be interested. And then they play Houston Christian, who used to be Houston Baptist. We got very confused. I got confused on that the other night. But they used to be Houston Baptist.
They weren't any better as Houston Baptist.
Houston Christian has only been playing football since 2013. They made the jump to FCS. Last year was the first time in history that they didn't have a losing season, and they went 5-5. They're picked 7th in a 9-team league, the Southland Conference. So that's who they played.
Yeah.
Now, I look at SMU on paper, who they've got. They've got like almost all of their production back defensively. Their top 7 tacklers, their top 9 out of 11. Like, they should be really good, and they'll still be opportunistic. They got a lot of speed defensively. But I just don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure about the competition they've played at this point. Just like I don't know for sure about BYU. Although I will say this, Southern Illinois is a lot more like Nevada than they are Houston Christian. And BYU manhandled them, right? And so we'll see. I don't know what to make of them. I know I agree with Kalani in his sound bite with us. This is a very good coaching staff. They're versatile offensively. BYU knows they run the quarterback run game, right? And so they've got to do a good job of shutting that down. They'll have more of a plan for that than they did against Southern Illinois. Kevin Jennings, he averaged 10 yards a carry from the quarterback spot last week against Houston Christian.
Well, you should.
And he can throw the ball. So and then they bring in Stone Preston, Preston Stone.
Yeah, he's the bigger one.
I'm losing my mind.
And he threw a couple of touchdowns. No,
it's Preston Stone. Yeah, it's Preston Stone. He comes in and he really gives them a run game from the quarterback position. I was really impressed with Brashad Smith, the running back. He seems to get his home run capability at running back. He transferred from Miami, hardly got any carries in his years there, transfers in. So I think BYU's got to be very aware of the big play capability in the run game, especially out of the quarterback and out of Smith, and play really solid defensively against the pass game, because this is a balanced team that does both things well, and they get after you on defense. And I've got a lot of respect for their coaching staff.
Turnovers is going to decide it. It always does.
Yeah.
So we do know that it's going to be a nice night in Dallas. It's a 6 o'clock kick time, Dallas time. A high of 91 on the day on Friday, a low of 69. So we'll be down there. It'll be warm, but in the 70s in that second half. BYU's going to wear the all-white jerseys with the navy trim and the navy helmet. First time they've done that. I saw a picture of it on social media from the equipment guys. Looks outstanding. I think it's going to be awesome. Yeah. SMU's going to counter with red shirts, white pants, a white helmet with the red Mustang. So that's how they're going to do that. Before we go to our next guest live in Dallas, we've got keys to the game.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do key number one for BYU to win on Friday night.
And you've already mentioned this, and we've mentioned it, and Brandon mentioned it. They need to win the turnover battle. SMU's, I mentioned, they're fast. They get after it on defense. They create sacks. They create turnovers. That's what they did last year. That's why they were so good last year. So BYU has to take care of the ball. Part of taking care of the ball is not just not throwing interceptions, but not putting the ball on the ground. So running backs have to secure the ball high and tight. And when the quarterbacks are back there, with the way they come after you on the edge, you got to have two hands on the football. You can't get hit and sacked. And a sack is bad enough. You can't compound a sack with coughing the football up and having them create a turnover. So that's my number one.
What's
win the
number
turnover
two?
battle. Number two is establish run game early, and big plays will come in the back end. So if BYU can run the football and force SMU to crowd the line of scrimmage more, this is what the P5 teams have done to SMU the last couple years. They run the ball, to the tune of 189 yards plus last year in the run game for P5s. And then the big plays come over the top because they got to crowd the line of scrimmage. And then you can see JoJo Phillips or now Darius Laster, who didn't play last week, or Chase Roberts getting over the top. So establish the run, and that can be through quick throws and screens as well. Make them come up and then go over the top.
All right, and the third and final key to beating SMU. These are Blaine's keys here on the Wise Guys.
We talked about this a little bit. Let's make it a formal key. Limit big plays, especially in the run game from this team. So don't allow their quarterback to turn a 3rd and 5 into a touchdown by running 37 yards downfield. Don't let Smith get loose on a toss, make somebody miss, get in open space, and run it 70 yards to the house for a touchdown. So really limit big plays, but especially in the run game and especially the quarterback run game. They let that happen last week, kind of by design. That's not the play design this week. Look for them to do a better job in the quarterback run game and limit big plays.
Those are Blaine's keys, 1, 2, 3, to a victory at SMU on Friday night in Dallas. And our next guest has been preparing for months to welcome the Cougars to the Lone Star State for Friday night. He's the BYU Alumni Director in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Pleasure to welcome Taggart Barron to the Wise Guys. He's got his Texas hat, his Texas Cowboy hat on, ready to roll. Hey, good evening.
Howdy, Dave, Blaine. Nice to be with you. Thanks for having me on the show.
So howdy is a Texas, greeting, right? That you gotta say howdy. Yeah. And at some point we should all say y'all.
Yeah, we have to get a y'all in.
And I like how people say all y'all. They say all y'all. Is that not redundant? But I love it.
No. Y'all is singular. If you want to talk to a group of people, it's all y'all.
Okay. I served my mission down in Texas years ago and picked up the y'all. But then I've since lost it, and now when I say it's because I'm lazy, and you just blend a couple of words in. But that's legit down there in the Lone Star State. How excited is everybody to have the Cougars come to town?
Wow. You know what? We've got a lot of alumni here in the area, and there's a lot of excitement building. We've got over 6,200 alumni in the DFW area. And, then you pick up their spouses and children and families. And our tickets sold out like this. There's going to be a lot of BYU fans at this game and at the tailgate.
How did they have they figured out how to get tickets? Like, how are we going to get tickets? Yeah. I think if if enough tickets were available, it could be a takeover. But how many are available, and how are they going to get them?
So there were a few channels. So the BYU ticket office bought a whole bunch of tickets, several hundred tickets. Those sold out in a bit. So then our alumni chapter, we bought 615 tickets. Those sold out like this. We've got the whole Dallas mission is going to be there. They got their own tickets.
Oh, nice.
And I even know people that they bought season tickets to SMU just for this game, and they're selling the other 5 games. So because they wanted a better seat than what they could get through us.
Yeah, that's sneaky.
Next level.
I love that's sneakiness that I like. I definitely respect that amount of sneakiness.
That's power 4 sneakiness. Like, how do we get in this game?
That's awesome.
Now, there are a lot of expectations for SMU coming into this season. So what's the buzz around this game?
Well, so they're going to the ACC. Their expectations are high. They think this is going to be an easy win, and they're favored by 11.5 points currently. So they feel like they are beginning the return to their glory days of the 80s.
Yeah.
And this is the step in that direction. So I feel that they're going to overlook BYU. They're getting ahead. They're getting ready for their game against TCU, who's their in-town rival right across town. For them, it's like the BYU Utah game. So this is a building block in their mind to getting ready for TCU in 2 weeks. They've got a bye. They're going into a bye next week. And so they think that this is going to be an easy win to go into their bye and get ready for TCU.
Interesting. They got Florida State after TCU, so it's like, hey, welcome to the
real world,
power,
right? Welcome
power
to
four
the real
football.
world, he said to me. Yeah. It's like, are you buying all this? So you're down there, maybe a little more objective. I don't know, maybe not objective, maybe all on the BYU side. But are you buying the hype around SMU? Because they have not had success against power. We're going to call them Power 4 now because the Pac-12's dead. But Power 5 over the last couple of years, even when they were dominant in the AAC, they did not play well against Power 5. Now they have 10 Power 5 games this year.
They think that's all in the past. I mean, I do have to give them credit though. They're fast, they're big, they are Texas football.
Yeah.
So this is by no means a layup for BYU, but I think that BYU has a lot better chance than the experts are giving them.
As far as BYU alumni activities, what do you have in store via the service project, which we love talking about, and
Yes.
and where fans can get more information?
So one of the challenges with this game is it's on a Friday at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
So, usually we're used to a Friday game, maybe 8 p.m., Mountain Time or something like that. But this is 6 p.m. So we've got to put together, where our tailgate's going to go 3 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay.
You got to take the afternoon off. Heck, just take the whole day off and come down to the game. But here's the nice thing about it. The location of the tailgate is about 200 meters away from the stadium. I mean, you can get to the tailgate. You got a short walk to the game. So 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. is the tailgate. We're going to have the BYU store to stock up on your BYU merch and swag. We're going to have Chick-fil-A for the food, inflatables, Cosmo, cheerleaders, music, and so on. If you want the address, it's 5800 Bush Avenue is the location of the tailgate. If you didn't buy tickets ahead of time, come on down anyways. There's a lot of stuff that you can buy at the door.
Hey, we got people in the chat saying, most important thing of all, how do we get that shirt that he's wearing?
Yeah. So look, this is our tailgate shirt from last year when we played TCU. Don't mess, y'all.
Nice.
And we do a custom shirt for every game, for every in-town game. So we've got a new BYU Texas shirt. Well, I'm not gonna tease it, but we're gonna.
So it's gonna be a new one
and available to everyone that bought a ticket to the tailgate, and people can buy more shirts at the game. And we're doing another shirt that's just BYU Texas. It's kind of like the theme, like BYU Idaho.
Yeah.
But every BYU fan in Texas needs to buy this shirt. We're partnering with the Royal Army Brands to bring it about. And this thing is legit. So we got two really, really awesome t-shirts that are exclusive to this tailgate, and they're going to go on sale on the website after the game.
They have to be at the tailgate to be able to get this, or is there going to be a link someplace they can go get it?
So for the tailgate shirt, you got to be at the tailgate. We don't have an online store for that, but for the Royal Army brand, that is going to go on sale the day before the game.
Nice.
So this is the tease, and you're going to get your first glimpse of it at the game. If I could share my screen, I'd share it with you, but I don't think I can.
What's the service project? What's everyone doing down there for good?
Yeah, so we do a big Cougs Care service project. This year the focus is on centers that serve adults with special needs or intellectual development disabilities. There's over 200,000 individuals in North Texas that have intellectual developmental disabilities, or IDD, and only about 4% of them have competitive employment. So there's a lot of these centers scattered around that do their best, but their funding is really, really limited. The Texas ranks dead last in the country for funding for these adults in this situation. So we've got like 30 different organizations. We decided to focus in on one. It's called Caring Pathways of Carrollton. We did a combined effort with the Carrollton Texas Stake. They did a service project out there on August 24th, patched up their place, did some painting, built some custom cubbies, and we're going to have some of their volunteers and some volunteers from these other organizations there at the tailgate with booths. And what these facilities really need is cash. And we're taking donations of like art supplies and different supplies that they need, but we're working with the Just Serve organization. Cash doesn't really fit the model. So if you want, you come to the tailgate, they'll have a little QR code there. You can scan it and donate some cash directly to these organizations to help them stay afloat.
Do you have a website where we can share that with everybody for those alumni who can't get to the game but can still help out?
Yeah, if you go, so the easiest way is follow us on our Facebook page and our Twitter page. So our Facebook is DFW BYU Alumni.
DFW BYU Alumni.
And the Twitter page is BYU Alumni DFW. And if you should follow those, not regardless of whether it's for this Cougs Care project or not. Follow those things. You'll find all the information on how to donate. And then you should also, if you're in the Dallas area, you got to make sure your contact information is up to date with the BYU Alumni Database website. We sometimes send out these emails, and I talk to my friends, and some people say they never got the emails, and I think they might have an old one in the system or whatever. Go to the BYU Alumni website, update your contact info. There's a lot of stuff going on in Dallas, not just the football game. We've got all the other sports coming, performing arts. We've got TCU coming, BYU coming to play at TCU in 2026. You're going to be at Lubbock in 2025, and we got Baylor this year, and we'll have Houston next year. So we've got a lot going on.
It's like we're moving in.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Hey, Taggart Barron is the BYU Alumni Director in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're thrilled to have him here on Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus and distributed by the Deseret News. Cougars this Friday night. I can't even, it's a short week, which makes it fun.
Yeah.
And it's on ESPN2. Describe to us the power of the connection. You just talked about all these things that are going on, about being connected on these service projects. The power of that connection that BYU Sports has with its alumni, both young and old.
Yeah. You know what? There's a lot of people that just looked up to BYU, and their window to BYU is usually through BYU athletics. And so it's just a huge opportunity to build the spirit of the Y. There's so much good that BYU does in this world. And there's a lot of people who are not affiliated with BYU. They're not alumni. They're not members of the LDS Church, but they respect BYU, and not only because of the athletics, but they see the good things that BYU does, like this Cougs Care Service Project. They hear about other things that we did, at the Tennessee game a few years ago, at Baylor a couple years ago. And there's just a lot of respect building for BYU down here in Big 12 country.
Taggart, Blaine's going to hit you up with 5 questions. You knew we weren't going to let you off the hook
All right.
before we say we'll see you on Friday.
That's right.
But speaking of Friday, what are your 3 keys? Blaine gave us his 3 keys a moment ago. What are your 3 keys to a win?
I heard you do this on the last segment, so I put some thought to my 3 keys. Here's my 3 keys to the game.
All right.
Number 1 is feed the dog. Like I mentioned, SMU is already favored by 11.5 points. Their expectations are high. They think there's going to be an easy one. So feed on it. BYU's faced SMU 4 times, and they lead the series 4-0, but they've never played SMU at this stadium.
Yeah.
2 of them were in bowl games. One of them was at home in Provo, and one of them was at the Cotton Bowl Stadium. So they've never played here. So feed on that and feed the dog. Number 2, score the first touchdown. Let's not wait until 4 minutes left, down 20, to get the offense started. All right.
You've seen this movie before. You have seen this before.
So sometimes people say start fast, but the start fast could be the defense. Like, just keep them out of the end zone. If they get the kickoff first and they go down and get a field goal, big deal. Let's get in the end zone first and feel the energy from the BYU crowd. And then my 3rd key to the game is play to the crowd. We hear the saying, every game is a home game. This is going to be one of those situations. You're going to have a lot of BYU fans there. Like I mentioned, all the tickets through the BYU ticket office, the Alumni Center, season tickets. You're going to have the missionaries are performing at halftime. The Dallas Mission are singing at halftime.
They're singing at halftime. That's awesome.
When you have a great play, look up at the crowd, acknowledge us, and we will lift you to the football team. So those are my 3 keys to the game. Feed the dog.
I love it.
Score the first touchdown, and play to the crowd.
Play to the crowd.
Love it, love it.
That's awesome. Hey, Jared, just on our live stream, said the DFW BYU alumni site says he can't find anything about this Friday. Is that the right address?
Yeah, we'll get it. If it's not there, I mean, it's probably not fresh on the feed. We'll keep putting stuff out there this week.
Taggart's on. He's getting it going.
Taggart's on.
Getting it going.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
All right.
We're gonna go. Here's your 5 questions. And the first one we're going to start with.
Hey, wait. Let's read our thing first.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
5 questions presented by Strategy Square, delivering connection, clarity, and confidence in business and marketing strategies.
We don't want to forget that.
Now we're ready.
And by the way, Strategy Square is a business partner of ours. I mean, they really help us with all of our social media and our marketing and all of that. So we don't want to forget about them. Okay, now we can do this. We're going to start with what we did. All of Brandon's 5 were, but you're getting 5 different ones. But we're going to start with this. What's your favorite sports movie?
All right. You know what? My favorite sports movie has got to be Remember the Titans.
Okay.
I love that game. That movie, that whole theme with the racism component of it and coming together to be a strong team. I just love that theme.
And is the music in that movie is awesome. So that's also really fun. All right, that's a good one. That's our most popular one, by the way.
Yeah.
Remember the Titans without question.
Right.
So your favorite singer or band?
My favorite singer and band by far is Sting or The Police.
All right.
Wow.
Such creative lyrics. I mean, really thoughtful lyrics. You know, he used to be an English teacher before, and you can just see it come out in his lyrics and in his music. Very talented. That's my go-to.
Okay.
Sting or The Police?
Good.
Okay. How about your favorite breakfast cereal? This is a big one. Very important. This is how we really get to know who somebody is.
If I could go into the pantry and every cereal was there, the one I would grab would be the frosted shredded wheat.
Okay.
All right. Okay, we can respect that.
It's a good mix of healthy, but a little bit of sugar to keep me going.
Yeah, it's fake healthy, which we appreciate because it's got that frosting on it. Completely nullifies any healthy part of it, which we can support. We absolutely can support this.
You know, my wife says I have a talent, though. If I go into the pantry and there's like 3 boxes with barely any cereal left, you know, my talent is I'll finish off all 3 and do a concoction to kind of get those boxes out of the way. So
That's
I'm
all
the guy
good.
that'll finish off the almost empty box.
My grandson's the other night. I said, "What do you want?" We got this and this and this and this and this, and they said, "Oh, Pop, we want you to mix Fruity Pebbles with cinnamon life."
You've started something.
I'm like, Fruity Pebbles and cinnamon life? I'd never even thought of that. But then I had a taste. I'm like, oh, this could be good. They might be onto something right here.
Yeah, if I want more cereal, you got to clean out that pantry.
Yeah.
It doesn't do any good to have a bunch of boxes with 5%.
Sometimes you
got to finish those
Yeah.
things off.
Yeah, take one for the team.
Just double it up.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
I have to tell you, one of my dear friends who passed away, and that we all know really well, one of BYU's best receivers ever, Danny Plater. We used to keep a bin of cereal for him. He would come in every Sunday, just stop by and grab cereal, and it was Apple Jacks. And Apple Jacks are great too. They're way underrated, but every time I have Apple Jacks, I think of the great Danny Plater because that was his cereal. So shout out to my guy up in heaven, Danny Plater, today. So, all right, your favorite BYU quarterback of all time?
Well, my favorite game that I've ever been to, I was an incoming freshman, first home game, 1990, and I got front row in the end zone, and watching Ty Detmer beat #1 Miami was one of the highlights of my BYU fandom. The entire stadium was just electric. You think about like a great play where you just want to yell and scream. It was like that the whole game.
Yeah.
And watching this scrawny little guy going out there and just shred.
Who was a Texan?
Miami. I mean,
he was a Texan.
Dodging the sack and everything. I was just blown away at watching that happen in person.
Ty Detmer is, hey, you're never going to go wrong when you pick a Heisman Trophy winner either, so that's okay. So
And it
Ty
feels
Detmer,
like that might lead into question number 5.
yeah, what's your favorite BYU moment of all time?
All right, so that has to be my BYU my BYU favorite moment. But if I had to back up to the last one, my next favorite quarterback would be the year that I graduated in '97 with Steve Sarkisian.
Oh, Sark was getting
And
it done.
watching him loft that ball down to K.O. Kealalui to win the game, and he goes in the end zone shaking it and falling on his back. I mean, that was
in the Cotton Bowl.
Also in Texas.
In the Cotton Bowl, right?
You picked a lot of Texas-themed guys.
No, that was Texas A&M at home.
Oh, that one at
you're
home.
talking about the
We're talking
beginning
about
of
the
the
Cotton
season.
Bowl.
But there's still a Texas.
Was that, no, sorry, 96. That was 96, right?
Yeah, it's 96.
97.
So you're talking about the opener against A&M in Lavelle Edwards Stadium, Cougar Stadium at the time.
Threw a bomb.
Which was also amazing.
KO Alui had some awesome catches from Steve, so it's hard to pick one, but that was the one I was thinking of.
But again, though, there's a Texas tie. So Ty Detmer's a Texas tie because he's a Texas kid, grew up and played football there. Dad, longtime coach there. And then this is the Texas A&M game where they beat Texas A&M is one of your favorite moments. So it's all Texas themed tonight.
It's all about Texas
as the Cougs
week.
go down to play SMU on Friday night. We love it.
5 questions presented by Strategy Square. Hey, we thank you, Taggart, for being with us. Appreciate all you do down there to keep the alumni hooked up. We're going to send you this interview, and if you could share it on your site there so that they can see they're all being represented. And the rest of Cougar Nation has high expectation for those turning out on Friday night to be loud enough to get on national TV and be loud enough to participate and motivate these guys so they feel like they're at home, away from home when they come to Texas.
That's right.
Good to see you. We'll look for you at the game. We won't be there, but Spencer will be down there. If you see Spencer, go say hi to him.
We'll be in studio and doing our best.
All right, we'll be looking for Spencer in his white pants.
Yeah, he'll have those.
He might. I don't know. Sometimes he goes royal pants.
Yeah, it's past Labor Day though. He's still going to wear those white.
colors of pants.
You know what? We should send you guys one of our new BYU Texas shirts.
You should
wear it on your show next week.
Oh yeah,
we will.
Especially if they win.
To Spencer. He can bring
send them up and send them with Spencer, and we'll wear it on this show next month if they win. So.
All right. What extra large? What do you got?
I'm a large.
Yeah, send us some larges.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and we'll sport them on here. Absolutely. We'll give all BYU alumni in the Dallas-Fort Worth area a shout-out. Appreciate all you do. Enjoy the game Friday.
Yeah,
the Cougars are finally coming to your hometown.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Blaine.
All right. Taggart Barron running the alumni stuff down there, and they got a great service project, and they're going to have a huge tailgate. And you heard him say, hey, look, if you didn't get a ticket to the tailgate, just come anyway. There'll be thousands of BYU fans there. Since SMU is all wearing red, just look for the blue.
Look for the blue.
And that'll be a fun night Friday night. I wish we were going down there.
Oh, it'll be
we'll
so
be in
fun.
studio here, but I wish we were going down there.
Interesting thing Taggart said is like he's down there and he gets the vibe that SMU feels like we're back. We won 11 games and I said, well, BYU got a little lesson last year in what it's like to play that many Power 5 teams in a single season, which they'd never had to do. And now I think they've reloaded and you got a bunch of second-year transfers and all that. But I want to remind everybody that SMU last year played 3 Power 5 teams. They lost to Oklahoma 28-11. I want you to tell me the theme here. They lost to TCU 34-17. They lost to Boston College 23-14. This was an offense that in their league scored 69 twice, 59.
Yeah.
They were just lighting people up in their league. They played 3 Power 5 teams. They scored 11, 17, and 14. BYU needs to act like a Power 5 defense Friday night. And here's the thing. They didn't light the world on fire against Nevada, who's not a Power 5 team. Who was pretty solid defensively in that first game. So yeah, it's 10 Power 5s on the schedule for SMU this season. Good luck.
Cougs have 10.
Good luck with that.
11 if you count SMU.
Right. Yeah, 11. No, 10 because they have Wyoming and then then Southern Illinois.
That's right. Hey, tomorrow night, Tuesday, on After Further Review, we'll break down the Southern Illinois game and show you what worked and what didn't. We'll explain why. We'll also take a look at SMU. AFR streams at 5 Mountain Time on the BYU TV app and on ESPN+. And it'll remain there so you can watch it as many times as you want. As we get to Friday, on game day, we kick off 2 hours of pregame coverage starting at 3 o'clock Mountain Time. That's that's an extended lunch. And then the weekend starts with a 3 o'clock pregame show Mountain Time.
Right.
Live in Dallas and live in our BYU TV studios here in Provo. We'll count it down to the 5 o'clock kick on ESPN2, the live postgame show back on BYU TV just as soon as that's over. And by the way, I've got an article out tonight on Jake Retzlaff and his big dose of normalcy, which he waited a long time for. That's at Deseret.com. Here's a question, our Cougar Board question of the week, before we close the book completely on Southern Illinois. We'll talk about some notable games in college football and then get right to Cougars in the NFL as we roll on here on this Labor Day night. If you're not familiar with Cougar Board, it's the largest online community of BYU fans. Thousands of posts daily. This question comes from Laser Coug, one of their insider subscribers. And a lot of people have been talking about this. Do we know what conference the officiating crew was from? Not allowing a coach to call a timeout seems over the top. I know Kalani wanted to review there and was willing to burn a timeout to get one. Why is that ever at the ref's discretion? Of course, we're talking about end of the second quarter. Just before halftime, they threw a bomb right on the BYU side, called it a completion. We're looking up at the highlight screen with the 62,000 others in the stadium. We can see that it's not.
Right.
But Southern Illinois hurries up because they know it's not either, and they hike the ball, which means you can't review it.
Once the play's got
Kalani
run,
was out there. What was going on?
Yeah, and so if you go back, I went back and kind of looked at it. When the play was completed, the receiver's back was to the BYU sideline. So the coaching staff and the players on the sideline didn't know that he dropped the ball. None of us knew it in the stadium until we saw the replay on the big board, right? Well, the coaches up in the booth, they also saw the replay on the big board and immediately said down to Kalani, hey, he didn't catch that. So Kalani at that point, keep in mind timing-wise, they were on the line of scrimmage ready to snap the ball. So Kalani started to run down and scream. The official didn't say, no, I'm not giving you a timeout. If he'd have heard Kalani, he would have gotten a timeout. He didn't hear him because it was that late and the play was snapped. And then Kalani was really, really mad. And I tried to get his attention. Well, if it was 10 seconds earlier, he would have gotten a timeout.
Yeah.
But the way it went down, nobody really saw it. Here's who I have a problem with. The guys up in the booth should immediately be reviewing plays like that. And their responsibility is to call down to the referee, to the lead official, and to say, hey, we need to take another look at that. Hold up. And the official would blow the clock. It's not the coach's responsibility to call a timeout to get them to look at a play. Sometimes they do when they recognize that. It's the responsibility of the replay group. And I don't know if the first look they looked at was the player's back or whatever, but they didn't call down. So there's the problem. Inherently, the problem was the replay team in the booth didn't catch that and didn't signal fast enough. It wasn't the official on the sideline that was over on that sideline said to Kalani, no, you can't have a timeout. He didn't see him, and the play happened so quick. Yeah. And kudos to Southern Illinois. They knew that catch might have not been completed. They ran up to the line of scrimmage, they got on the ball, and they ran a play. And then it's too late. And then it was over. So if there's blame to be made...
Then they scored, and that made it worse.
If there's blame to be dished out here, it's not to the officiating crew on the field. It's the guys in the booth didn't signal it down fast enough. So there you go.
There's the question. The Big 12 in the AP Top 25, the new poll is going to come out tomorrow. By the way, Boston College is leading Florida State 14-6 at halftime.
Yeah, what's going on in the world?
If Florida State loses this game tonight, their season's over.
Come on.
There's nothing left to offset 2 ACC losses to get them in the playoff.
No.
So they're fighting for their lives. Utah's still at 12. Oak State is 17. Kansas State's 18. Arizona put 61 on New Mexico. They're 21, and Kansas is 22. There might be a little shuffling when the poll comes out tomorrow. Yeah. Another big week in the Big 12.
Yeah, let's talk about notable games in the Big 12. Baylor's at number 12, Utah. Interestingly enough, this is a non-conference game, Dave. Yeah. This was a home-and-home that was scheduled before the conference, and then Utah gets added into the conference, and they're saying, well, we can't get, and by the way, the conference requires you to play at least one Power 4 team in your preseason schedule from another conference. But there's not a bunch of Power 4 teams just waiting for you to schedule a game on short notice. Yeah. And so the league said, okay, keep that Baylor, you guys keep that game, because they're not going to tell Baylor and Utah, hey, you both have to go find a game. That's nearly impossible that late.
Right.
So they let them keep it on the schedule. It's a non-conference game, which if you're a Utah fan, you either hate it or you love it, depending on the result. If you win, you're like, why can't this be a conference game? If you lose, you're like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. That wasn't even a conference game. Doesn't even affect us. And so we won't know if fans love that or hate that until the game is over.
They're going to learn a lot about their team.
Right.
Much more so than what they saw against Southern Utah. So that's going to be an interesting one up in Salt Lake on Saturday.
I've been really watching Cam Rising now this week to see how healthy he is. Because even though Baylor's not picked at the top of the league, in fact, they're toward the bottom of the league, right, this year. Yeah. They're still way more physical and have way more top-level athletes. And Dave Rand is a defensive-minded coach. He's very involved in the defense again this year as the head coach, kind of taking that defense over. Cam Rising's going to get flushed out. He's going to get hit. He's going to get tackled. They're going to really try to defend the run. That's what Dave Rand is known for with better athletes. We're going to see if Cam Rising's healthy.
Yep.
He's going to have to move around. He's going to have to make plays. If he looks magnificent like he did a couple years ago,
then they're in business.
Then Utah's in business. If he looks like he's not quite as quick or then
they're not in business.
Then they're not in business. So there you go. This is a big game for Utah.
Iowa State's going on the road to take on Iowa. Kansas is at Illinois, so there's some decent matchups. Colorado is over at Nebraska. Colorado didn't look great, although their receivers like the best in the game.
Iowa State's an interesting one for me because those two are both physical teams, and Iowa looks good again this year.
Oak State's at home against Arkansas. That'll be interesting. Of course, they'll be here on October 18th.
Yeah.
And then Idaho is at Wyoming. We put that on the list because BYU's at Wyoming next week.
Games of interest.
And Idaho, you know what? I'll tell you, Wyoming looked awful against Arizona State. They can't possibly be that bad.
Right.
And Arizona State can't possibly be that good. But on Saturday night, Arizona State was so much better than Wyoming. It was ridiculous.
Well, what's going on here? And then you know what? Idaho looked pretty good for a while against Oregon. Right?
The big game on Saturday of national interest is Texas at Michigan. So Steve Sarkisian and the Horns going into Ann
Jim Harbaugh, right?
Yeah.
Who's now in the NFL. And then Tennessee's at North Carolina State and Charlotte, North Carolina, another big national one that everybody's going to keep an eye on. A couple of big matchups.
Love to have football. We had our family fantasy football draft last night.
Yeah, we had ours last night too.
I like the guys. I like my roster better than last year's. We'll see.
Did you go back and look at the rankings in your league? Like, where did your draft rank?
They gave me a B.
Oh, I was the number 1 ranked draft last night.
Oh, yeah?
A. And you know why? Because they randomly picked the number 1 pick, and as soon as you get Christian McCaffrey, which I took with the number 1 pick.
Yeah, as you should.
If he stays healthy, I win the championship. That's all there is to it.
And if he doesn't?
Then I lose.
Then you lose.
Well, that's what happened to me last year. Well, I didn't have Christian McCaffrey. And
I wanted McCaffrey last year.
I won the league 2 years ago, and I didn't even make the playoffs last year.
Yeah, that's a funny.
Yeah.
It's that whole fantasy thing.
Yeah.
You know,
injuries play a big role.
The NFL starts up on Thursday. Let's run down the list of Cougars that will be on the field. Kyle Van Noy will be on the field for the Ravens. They take on the Chiefs. Kingsley Suamataia will be on the field for Kansas City. So 2 Cougars front and center, and of course Andy Reid's on the Chiefs sideline.
Yes,
that's on NBC Thursday night.
Yeah, Friday the Packers, Zane Anderson at the Eagles.
That's down in Brazil.
Yeah, interesting, huh? It's a global game now.
I was happy for Zane making that roster.
Yeah, it's
Green
awesome.
Bay.
Yep.
On Sunday, Kyrie's Tonga made the roster for the Cardinals. They take on the Bills.
Yeah, the Patriots, Sione Takitaki. He's on IR, so he's still on the team, coming back from an injury, and he'll be on the team once he's healthy. They're at the Bengals and Ryan Rico. Ryan Rico has himself a spot. We thought he'd make it, and once he makes it, I think he's going to be in the league for a long, long time.
Now, all he has to do is kick him to the moon.
Keep bombing
him. The Panthers have Brady Christensen reuniting with Taysom Hill and Jamal Williams at New Orleans. That'll be fun for the 3 of them.
And those guys are all good buddies, so I expect to see some pictures coming out of those 3 together and posted by BYU Football. The Steelers are at the Falcons. Tyler Algier, still one of the primary running backs.
I'm curious to see how they're going to work Robinson and Algier.
I know. The Algier needs more carries. I'm ready for them to let Algier go to a team that needs a feature back and let him be the guy. He rushed for 1,000 yards as a rookie. He needs to be a feature back.
Yeah, yes, he does. Blake Freeland and the Colts are home against the Texans.
The Broncos with Zach Wilson at the Seahawks.
Hey, Zach was at the game.
Yeah.
Had a great ovation on Saturday night. So with Kenneth Rooks. He was there with his silver medal.
So
that
fun.
went nuts. Jay Hill was back up in the booth after a heart attack, and then the 62,000 fans. Those were all the stars in the house.
It was so fun. And in between, when we went from outside to inside, I ran down on the field to play catch with Gavin for a couple of throws. By the way,
you have to.
In games where Gavin and I have played catch before the game, we won 17 straight.
Okay.
We lost 2 games.
It's almost worth flying into Dallas.
We lost 2 games. This is a home tradition. So 17 games where we've played catch that BYU's won. Last year, because of the conflicts in our schedule, I didn't get to play catch with them twice. They lost both games.
I blame yourselves.
No, Jay Hill said to Gavin and I the other day, he's like, this is happening. Like before the other night, he was like, this is happening. He says, I don't care if you have to sprint down on the field and throw it one time. You get down on the field and you play catch with Gavin. And so We had 8 minutes to get from the outside to the inside. I ran down on the field. Gavin had just started the group, down there with his defensive backs, with the safeties. They all gave me a hug. Gavin gave me a hug. He says, here, we threw 2 balls. I ran back up, got on set, and they have a convincing victory.
17 straight.
I think we need to just mic me up and give me a camera so we can have a little more relaxed catch down there.
Yeah, well, you're in the middle of a pregame show.
That's true.
And so we got that. We got that.
And the reason we were able to do it for 16 in a row or before that, or 17 in a row before
you can't leave me up there with Nixon
I know.
and Austin
I'm not going to
and
leave you hanging, but
it's a circus.
We used to do a 1-hour pregame show, and now it's 2.
Yeah.
So, and the thing I want to say was Jay Hill, when I walked down on the field, the whole team was around him, and he was down in the corner of the end zone. Oh, man, that was a powerful moment.
Yeah.
It was a powerful moment.
Back with the guys for the first time.
It gave me the chills. So,
Michael Davis and the Commanders are at the Bucks.
And then the Rams with Puka Nacua at the line. Is Puka back? Is he cleared?
He's back in practice.
He's back. And then Monday night, Jets. We don't care about the Jets anymore.
No.
Can we just throw them away and never talk about them again?
Well, they're playing Fred Warner and the Niners, so we care about that.
Being a Giants guy growing up in New York and hating the Jets and having to kind of reverse that when Zach got there and liked them, and then the way they treated him, I hate him more than I hated him as a kid.
I have a Jets shirt. When am I ever going to wear that again?
So all I have to say about that game is go Niners and Fred Warner. That's all I have to say.
Jaron Hall initially made the 53-man roster with the Vikings, and then 2 days later they cut him.
Inexplicably.
It's a crazy league. But today he signed with the Seahawks on the practice squad.
Yeah, and you know
so
what?
I saw some video of him out there throwing with the Seahawks.
The way he played down the stretch in preseason, at some point he's going to be activated on a roster and play.
I hope so. By the way, 2 other Cougars on practice squads who are both with the Texans. Max Tooley, who we thought would make the 53-man. He had a great preseason.
Right.
And then Keaton Slovis, cut by the Colts, and the Texans go, we got a spot for you on our practice squad.
I love that.
So those guys are down there. Let's do our Defense Drinks promo.
I forgot to
model
mention
that?
Yeah, so here it is.
There we go. DJ's got the model camera on. Defense Drinks contains a special blend of collagen, vitamins, and minerals. These have been shown to reduce joint soreness and reduce injury. Who doesn't want that? Add Defense Drinks to your day to move and feel better. And you can save 10% on your order at defensedrinks.com using the promo code.
And if anybody needs his joints to feel better, remember, I ran every step in that stinking stadium. No, I'm not going to call it stinking stadium. In that awesome stadium. When you're running every step, it's a stinking stadium. I ran every step in that stadium Thursday night, and my calves are still killing me, and my right knee still hurts.
Yeah.
So
let's think. I can think of one person to blame.
This has collagen in it, which is going to help my knee.
That's going to help.
No, that's another tradition.
Yeah, and it's a tradition that it's going to come to an end.
No,
Tom Mortensen
never.
from the Bay Area on the Wise Guys says, love the show. Thanks, Tom. Because you don't have wheelchair access all the way to the top. That's going to come to an end.
No, yeah, it's true. At some point, but let's just say in the next 10 years, I'm doing it.
Here's some campus notes as we get ready to roll out of here on the Labor Day Monday night. Women's soccer, okay. So they start ranked number 3, and that was a ranking because of Jen Rockwood and her dominance.
Right.
This is a young team. They lost most of their players. I think 6 or 7 of them went to the pros last year, and now we're seeing it. They're now 1. They beat Wisconsin to open up. 19th ranked Badgers. Now they've lost 2, and they've tied 2 this past week. Got beat at 6th ranked UCLA 1-0. Utah State came in and beat them 2-1. The Aggies ranked 19th. So they're getting beat by 1 goal.
Yeah,
or they're getting tied 1-1. It's just
the offense
waiting
isn't
for the
clicking
offense.
yet, and they were one of the top offensive teams in the country the last couple of years. You have to expect at some point with these young, really talented players that's going to start to click for them. This week they have Boise State at home on Wednesday night, 7:00. That's on ESPN+. And then BYU's at Arkansas in a non-conference game Saturday at 5:30 Mountain Time.
Credit Coach Rockwood, who's been on the show several times.
Yeah.
She's got a young team. She knew that. Look who they're playing. They're going to Arkansas. They're going to UCLA. They were back at St. Louis. She doesn't care because next year's team is going to be this year's team, but experienced. And that's how she wins and wins and wins. And so when you see Arkansas in there just before their Big 12 opener, you scratch your head and go, why would they do that? Because that's what she's building. That's what she does.
And she told us on this show, on this very show, she said, you know what? We're very young. We're very talented. When you're great, it's when talent meets experience, which she had last year. But she said, we're going to learn a lot about ourselves early. We'll learn, but by the time we get to conference play, we'll settle in and we're going to compete for a conference championship. So let's see that.
Last 3 years, they've been to the Final Four twice.
Right. So, and the conference opener, so she says by the time we get to conference, September 12th, Arizona State at BYU, they'll start to understand who they are. She expects them to be successful in conference, and why would we ever doubt her?
Women's volleyball is 3-0. They beat Southeastern Louisiana, Fairfield, and High Point, all at the Smith Fieldhouse. Kind of a tune-up to bigger games ahead. They're up to number 14 in today's national rankings. Lipscomb at BYU Thursday night, 7 o'clock Mountain Time on ESPN+. And then it's number 14, Georgia Tech at, well, I'm not sure what Georgia Tech is. They were 14th. BYU's now 14th, so I think Georgia Tech's probably 12th.
Yeah, BYU was 16 and moved up. Georgia Tech, I think, would have moved up.
So we got a top 20 showdown at the Fieldhouse Saturday night, 7 o'clock Mountain Time on ESPN+. Now, that's a game to be at.
Just look for me. I'll be right behind the service line where BYU will start serving. So I'll be there with Brenda and our 2 granddaughters.
Okay, don't shout anything at the kids. Just let it happen.
I'm very sportsmanlike. And I don't
place
really
would be that's going to be the place to be.
It's a
Saturday night.
great college volleyball environment. I love it. So I'll be there on Saturday night.
Cross country, the men's national ranking number 2. That's how they roll, right behind.
Of course they are.
Oklahoma State, and they won the Utah Alumni Challenge last weekend, defeating Utah State, Weber State, and Westminster. That was their first run. They just go out and win. That's what they do.
All I do
Doesn't
is
matter
win,
who they run against.
win, no matter what. Okay, that's my song for the day. The women's rankings number 6. Oh, that's why am I dying from not surprised on that one too, right? So this week, Thad Scholl's Cross Country Classic Friday in Twin Falls, Idaho. I think they run into that canyon down in Twin Falls, which is really cool.
Well, that'll be cool. They were in Alaska. Diljeet Taylor was telling us she's taken to Alaska to get ready for the season. So they're at 6, and the men are number 2, and they are off and running. For the latest headlines about BYU sports, visit CougarFan.com. That's tied in with the Deseret News, and they're tied in with us, and we're excited about that. You can find articles there and all that stuff.
All kinds of stuff.
CougarFan.com. On this day, September 2nd, should we roll out?
Let's do this. Let's start with 1666.
Yes, that's old school.
Well, remember, my number in college was 16, so whenever we start with something 16, I like it, and it feels near and dear to my heart. 1666. The Great Fire of London, I guess that's not near and dear to my heart.
No, but
80% of the city was destroyed.
That's why we put it on this day. 80% of the city burned up.
I love London. I think we may run to London in December when we have a break between football and basketball.
It's all since been rebuilt.
Yeah, it's a beautiful city. I love London.
1936, the NFL Chicago All-Star Game at Soldier Field. Listen to this. The college All-Stars beat the Detroit Lions 7-6. In front of 76,000 people. Now, you often hear when Alabama was really good or Georgia, it's like, how would they do against the worst NFL team? Those who might not know would say, well, I think they'd probably beat them. But what if we had a game like that played today? The college All-Stars.
See, that's a different question.
Against the worst NFL team.
The college All-Stars might fare okay.
Because they're all ready to go play in the NFL.
The idea that a college team, let's say it's Georgia, could go beat, who do you think's the worst team in the league? I don't even know who is anymore.
I don't either. It's hard to say, but the Jets are Giants minus Aaron Rodgers.
That's true. Let's say the Jets. Just because I like to throw them under the bus, let's say the Jets.
The Jets last year.
The Jets would kill Georgia.
Yeah.
Right? But now let's put an all-star team together of the 22 best players in college football. That's a different story. Now, but you got to give them, if you give them 3 weeks to prepare, I don't know about that one. They might beat the Jets.
And now they won't do it because they don't only like to play in bowl games because they're getting ready for the draft. But in 1936 on this day, that went down.
How fun. How about in 1945? Japan formally surrenders on this day, bringing an end to World War II.
Significant.
That's a huge day.
Changed the world.
Yeah.
1966 on this day, in the Dolphins' first regular season game, Joe Ayer returns the opening kickoff 95 yards for a touchdown against the Raiders. So they finally get a team. They get to the regular season. There's the opening kickoff, touchdown, 95 yards.
You got to love it. So how about 1969? The first automatic teller machine in the United States is installed in Rockville, New York.
Yeah. Changed the world.
1969. I didn't realize there were ATMs that long ago.
Yeah.
There weren't cell phones back then, but there were ATMs.
So now, when's the last time you've been to an ATM? And now that everything's so easy on your card,
you Venmo,
when do you
charge.
go to the machine
I
to
actually,
get cash?
I actually do go once in a while and get cash.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't like to
they're
not
there
have
for
any
you.
cash, you know. So,
Right.
and I don't use my card for little like if I get an ice cream cone at McDonald's, I do cash.
Yeah, for
And
the
that's-
little things.
Probably way too often. That's a lot of times a week.
On this night, 1972, Cubs pitcher Mitt Pappas no-hits the Padres. I don't know how that got on our list, but it's on our list because it happened
Because it's
today.
a no-hitter. There you go. And it's the Cubs, and that's your team.
That's right.
So there you go. How about September 2nd birthdays? 1850, A.G. Spalding's birthday. Why A.G. Spalding? Because he's one of the biggest names in sports. Spalding basketball, sports equipment. This is the guy, A.G. Spalding.
1901 on this day, Adolph Rupp, Hall of Fame coach, Rupp Arena, Kentucky.
Here you go. A lot of sports guys on September
Yeah.
2nd. 1948, another sports guy. One of my favorites, Terry Bradshaw.
1952, Jimmy Connors.
1960, Eric Dickerson. These are all, he's SMU guy. We're
Yeah.
naming an SMU guy, giving him some credit. And
he
the
was,
Rams.
And he was also in the Holiday Bowl where he got beat.
It was Dickerson and Craig James
In
were the running backs.
1980.
Yeah. So
1965 on this day, Lennox Lewis, heavyweight champion, had a chance to
we were
cover
talking
his
about
fights.
London. Isn't Lennox from London?
Yeah.
Thinks he is. So, and then 1966, seriously, one of my favorites. I think she's one of the most beautiful women in the world, Selma Hayek.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. 1966.
Yeah, she's like a year older than me.
Yeah, she still looks amazing. Yeah. So,
And on this day in 2013, BYU Sports Nation was born. They celebrated their 11th anniversary today. So we give a shout out to
Sports Nation.
Spencer, Jerem, and everybody associated with that show. Ben, David. We've been on that show a million times too. It's the best every day and the only everyday BYU sports show in the world. BYU Sports Nation.
hey, and you know how I've been teasing Corey Yoshimura over in Japan, saying, when's Japan going to show back up? And I know Corey's been on the road with PGA Tour and doing a bunch of stuff. And so Corey chimes in and says, hey, great show, guys. Love joining you live this week. Go Cougs. So he's joining us. I don't know if he's in town here in the United States or if he's in Japan, but Japan is in the house with Corey Yoshimura.
Fantastic. Some notable deaths on this day, September 2nd. In 490 BC, Phidippides, the Greek inspiration for the modern marathon. So where did the marathon come from and why people run them and all that stuff? You can blame this guy who died on this day in 490 BC.
How do we even know that? That's amazing. So let's go forward a little.
All right.
To 1973 when J.R.R. Tolkien died. The great author of the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and how much money did that thing make?
Oh, my goodness.
Once they went to the screen.
Did you go to the movies for all of those?
You know what? I don't think I've seen but one.
Oh, man, they're epic.
I just missed that window.
Yeah.
And I also,
Return
you know
of the
what
King.
else?
Return of the
I
King
also
is my
missed
favorite.
the Twilight window.
So, you know what?
I missed that.
That's a whole
thing.
different deal. I'm not into the Twilight thing. My wife likes the Twilight thing, but Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King,
The
big
You
time.
Shall Not Pass. I know that came
Big
from that.
time. So,
On this day in 2005, Bob Denver. Who's Bob Denver? Well, that's Gilligan from Gilligan's Island.
yeah. Not related to John Denver.
We used to watch that after
Yeah.
school. Gilligan's Island.
I watched Gilligan's
4
Island all the
o'clock.
time. Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island, I Dream of Jeannie.
We'll do our homework after.
Yeah.
Then we did.
No, Gilligan's Island was great.
Our Wise Guys inspirational quote of the week is from Terry Bradshaw. By the way, I emceed an event with him in Vegas a few years back, and he's just genuine. What you see on Fox with his personality is what you get in person. And I even told him that Roger Staubach was my favorite when they were back in the day, and he was okay with that because we cheered against the Steelers. But what a fun guy to hang out with.
Yeah,
and his health's been lousy these last few years.
Yeah.
And his knees.
He's a great broadcaster. Did you see
was
the
a
movie?
great quarterback.
Did you see the movie Failure to Launch?
No, but I know of it.
Yeah, so he's in that.
Yeah.
And
He can act.
yeah, he's hilarious in it. And one of my favorite things is he has a naked room at his house because he says he's to the age now. His son was supposed to be moved out, but he wasn't moved out. There's a room that he just goes in naked. I'm just like, and he's talking about that. I'm like, this is just Terry Bradshaw. That's just who he is. Everybody should have a naked room at their house where they just don't have to put their clothes on. So.
All right. So Terry Bradshaw.
Now, with that said,
our Wise Guys inspirational quote of the week.
he says the best thing you can say about any coach is his players play hard for him.
Isn't that true?
That is true. The players will run through a brick wall for them. The players will play hard. That's the best thing, the best compliment a coach can get.
You know, and you look at today's game, and Nick Saban was so successful because his players played hard for him all the time. And Georgia, how'd they get so good? Well, they get good players, and they play hard for them, or they don't play.
Right. Dabo Swinney has done a great job. Like Clemson's, like those are the things you say. I'll say this. They say that about Kyle Whittingham at the U, and they say that about Kalani Sitaki at BYU. Players will play hard for these guys. They're players, coaches. They love these guys.
Credit to USC because their guys played hard for their coach last night.
That's
beat
the best
LSU.
I've seen them on the defensive side of the ball in a long time.
Totally surprised me. All right, Terry Bradshaw, thanks for that quote of the week. We thank Brandon Doman and Taggart Barron. Next week, Dr. Derwin Gray.
Yep. That's and don't forget about AFR tomorrow, 5 Mountain Time on the BYU TV app and ESPN Plus. Dave and I have a great show in store for you, along with Dave Nixon tomorrow. And game day, Friday, 3 Mountain Time on BYU TV. It's live on BYU TV, on the BYU TV app, and on ESPN Plus. That'll give you a 2-hour lead up to the BYU at SMU game, which kicks at 5 Mountain.
Yeah,
6 local time.
I kind of like that it's early because it feels like once you have lunch on Friday,
it's time.
The weekend's here.
I agree. I didn't. Who said today? Was it Brandon or was it Taggart that said you just take the whole day off?
Yeah, that's Taggart.
It's like a holiday. Taggart said, Texas, do not go to work on Friday.
If you're in Texas, you have a holiday today, and then you have one on Friday.
Yep, this is a 3-day week. BYU in town is a holiday.
Hey, my book, C is for Cougar, is available at DeseretBook.com. It's all back to school. It's time to, bone up on the alphabet.
Yep.
We all need it, and it's waiting
The
there.
best alphabet book ever.
There's a legend behind every letter.
And don't forget, Wise Guys is presented by Brady Plus, and now distributed by the Deseret News.
That was our big story.
Yep.
That's big. And look for
so
Wise Guys clips at Deseret.com in those stories that you'll read this week.
And Michael Zimmerman, he closes out everything with the right tone. He says, "Great show, love you all." Right back at you, Michael Zimmerman.
Thanks, man. And we'll see you Friday on Countdown.